I want this week to be a little. We're doing something a little different this week, guys. We are going to talk about superhero movies. And it's something we always allude to in like our previous episodes. We might reference a movie, but we never like actually deep dive into our personal thoughts on superhero movies and all that. And mainly because Burn by himself could do like an hour segment on this topic.
But I'm also a gaping asshole when it comes to this topic because depending on certain superhero movies.
So if you guys haven't seen it already, the Batman trailer for The Batman, Matt Reeves' The Batman recently dropped. And personally, it looks fucking fantastic.
No.
It looks fucking fantastic.
Can we talk about the scene where he meets one of the Joker goons and just fucking caves his face in?
Oh, that guy's dead.
That's the Riddler.
Okay,
that's the Riddler crew. Whatever. Dude just walks up to him and fucking pop, 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 pop.
I don't have time.
He's on the ground. 1, 2, 3 more, and I'm like, you know what? That scene alone, I'm in love with this movie already. Fuck everything else.
I'm pretty sure that guy is dead. Do you think, I do want to ask this, do you think, and this could kind of go into like sticking to the source material or, deviate a little bit. Do you think they're going to touch on the fact that there was a point Batman killed?
I don't think they're going to
let one of the universes.
No, because what the storyline is based off of.
Yeah. Is this based off of like Batman Year One? Because it looks like Batman Year One.
Year two, right? Yeah, it's year two.
Yep.
I think they might allude to Year One, and you know what? I think I like the direction they're going because let's be honest, with the exception of when Ben Affleck played it, we have seen quote unquote Year One Batman many times, or referenced to.
It's like we get it already.
Yeah, we all know the origin. I mean, even when Ben Affleck played it, they still alluded to it.
The first 10 minutes of that movie was Batman's origin. It's like, okay, we know. We get it.
I'm fine with the whole quick, hey, this is what happened to Batman, this is where you get Batman from. However, I don't want a whole 45 minutes of this is his
origin story.
Yeah. So far to me personally, it looks really, really good. I'm excited for when it comes out. I definitely feel this may be the grittiest take so far. I mean, it looks like it's going to be very gritty. And you know what? And as much as a lot of people probably would, be like, oh no, but if you think about Batman the animated series and you take away the fact it was a cartoon and you actually pay attention to the story, it was actually a gritty story.
It was.
There was all kinds.
Yeah, I mean, it was just at the time that it was drawn that, there was limitations. Of course, it was on, network television. But if they probably told the story the way they wanted to, I mean, just look at Justice League and some of the episodes of Justice League. It got dark.
Yeah.
Oh, they got
very dark.
And even like that, I remember growing up and watching them. Like, I don't remember it making me feel this way.
Yeah, you watch it now, you walk away feeling some type of way. Like the episode when Flash almost literally died because I think it was Lex Luthor, when he was fused with Brainiac, ticked him off, basically insulting him.
He went so fast, he fucking killed Lex as Brainiac, but it messed up the Speed Force on him.
And yeah, he literally took the team pulling him back to save him. It's stuff like that like when you go back and you watch it as an adult, you're like, yo, okay, wow. We literally just pretty much watched the Flash nearly kill himself to save the world. Like he knew where he stood among the Justice League, but he was always lighthearted about it. But having someone like Lex and Brainiac poking at him, calling him the most useless member of the Justice League, it then that emotion really sticks with you when you watch it again.
But the thing with Flash that they never really touch on is how OP that character is, especially Wally West. They never truly touch on it, and if they went like as dark as the comics do when it comes to Wally, especially. Wally is a terrifying fucking person.
Yeah, he has crazy abilities.
Wally threatened Bruce's life and was like, "Hey, just understand, I let you touch me all those times. If I wanted to end this right now, I could."
Well, Superman said the same thing. Superman said the same thing.
Realistically, every hero with some superpower in the Justice League could, snap members of the Bat family in half without like breaking a sweat. The thing that I think that symbolizes and just personifies Batman as one of the greatest is the fact he knows this, he acknowledges this, and he literally like takes the next step to prevent it. The fact
he'll be the only one to take it to the grave too.
Yeah,
be the only one to take it to the grave.
That's what made him such a staple.
You're gonna finish me off. I'm taking you with me.
There's a humanity and dark side about Batman that does not get portrayed with all the other heroes, because the other heroes are more fictional and powerful in a concept than Batman is seen as. He has a humanity about him, a psychological darkness that we don't acknowledge in ourselves, and I think that's what represents Batman and what makes him so great.
Yeah, and he's literally the human, of the group. So that once again stands out for everybody. And the fact he has the wit, because everybody else relies on their power. They rely on their, whatever extra skill set they have. Where quite literally, it's. Everyone, will immediately go, oh, well, Batman's trained in all those martial arts, but it all starts with the mind. It all starts with the mind and the mindset. If you don't have that will, if you don't have that, that level of commitment and intelligence, it doesn't matter how much physical training you do. You're probably not even going to get to that point. For Batman, it's always been the brain. That's literally his greatest weapon. That's what makes him such a dangerous threat. Why people like, Superman, and even though people can go to him like, oh, even Wonder Woman, like, oh, I could break you in half like a twig, but they also know if I do this, you probably have had 13 contingency plans put in place for the moment you die.
I'll argue that. I'm a huge Batman, but I will argue this. So the thing with Bruce, right, is as we progress later on in life, he went from being, hey, I'm human and there's nothing unique about me, to, hey, I am so peak human ability that I'm damn near superhuman. I mean, in the comics now, that man can bench press a ton. And that's right now. He can literally bench press a ton. And we're just sitting here like, okay, cool. I ain't mad at him for it, because again, my love for Batman. But what we never acknowledge is, and I hope the movie kind of touches on this, Batman normally gets fucked up the first round.
Oh yeah, I mean, because he needs to know his enemy. That's probably his greatest weakness, is if he goes in with little to no information against a super villain. And I mean, I don't mean like with any like, Mr. Freeze level. I mean, like, I consider a super villain anyone who has that intellectual ability to keep Batman on his toes. I consider the Joker a super villain because there's been many times he's bested Batman, not only in baiting him in traps, but even in hand-to-hand combat at some points, catching him by surprise. So
you also know that how they differentiate the Joker so many different ways is 1 minute he is no physical abilities whatsoever.
So
another book, he knows capoeira and everything else, and he can literally beat the shit out of you in like 2 seconds.
That's part of what can be, it's controversial for sure, but it's also part of what makes novels and comic books so amazing is you can branch out and have multiple versions and universes and storylines.
Oh, I agree.
So that makes me wonder, like, how do you guys feel about with that literally being a thing? There's literally how many different branches of like Batman, like too many to count at this point.
Shit.
You don't want me to go into that.
Where do you think they're gonna go with because we pretty much know it's the Riddler, and I'm kind of glad they're going with the Riddler because that means somebody was finally brave enough to take a very underrated but definitely dangerous, he's underrated but a very dangerous foe in the Batman gallery, and give them a chance to redeem themselves. Because don't get me wrong, I did not mind the Jim Carrey approach, but
Jim Carrey
he didn't
was more
sell.
comical.
It was more, it was more comical.
It's directed by Tim Burton too. I mean, there's gonna be
that part.
Exactly. What really messed it up, and I think Tommy Lee Jones is an amazing actor, but having him play Two-Face the way he did
the original
it just didn't work.
Well, when you think of Tommy Lee Jones, you don't think of that.
Right. The original intent was, hey, I'm going to use Tim Burton's storyline. And then it became Joel Schumacher. And Joel Schumacher was, rest your soul, was a very unique director when it came to his movies. And there's no like real in-between way to say, hey, Joel Schumacher made this and I feel away. Because he has two different styles, so to speak. He either gets really flamboyant or really gritty. There's no in-between with Joel Schumacher. Because there's movies you've seen of Joel Schumacher and you're like, ew, God, Batman and Robin, prime example.
Ooh.
Right? Yeah.
Ooh.
That was Joel Schumacher. But if I tell you a phenomenal movie that Joel Schumacher did, you'd be like, really? He made that movie? Lost Books, prime example. Phone Booth, another prime example.
It's a good movie. So, okay, basically, superheroes was not his forte, is what we're getting at.
He only did the two.
He did. Wait, you talking about Tim Burton, the director?
No, Tim Burton.
Because he did three, and then the fourth one was some other guy.
I think Tim Burton's more of a producer.
Tim Burton did two.
He did the first two?
The Batman and Batman Returns.
And then
I thought he did three. Okay.
No, because if he would have did the third one, there would have been a lot of changes. Prime example, Robin was going to be black. I'm not going to tell you who was going to be Robin. Because
don't even get me started on that conversation. I was reading the comments on like the YouTube video, like of the Batman trailer, and somebody came up with a term that doesn't even exist. And I was like, oh my gosh, now you're reaching. They're like, how come they're blackwashing some characters now? I was like, what? And not even just Gordon. This just to show that some people don't even know the history of Catwoman. They were talking about Catwoman too. I was like, have you not gone back? Catwoman has changed race like several times.
7 times.
Yeah. She's been black, she's been Hispanic, she's been Caucasian.
You know what?
She just needs to be Asian next.
Can we just agree that the actor should play what the actor's good at? I think Jeffrey Wright would make a Gordon.
Dude, just from the trailer, I already love him as Gordon.
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
What the fuck? He does the role right. Let's see him do the role right.
Right.
Like everything else, let the role be the role and let the actor do their job.
The thing that a lot of people don't realize is like the Catwoman thing. I've seen that, and I'm like, y'all do realize the Catwoman that gets praised from the early '60s was Eartha Kitt.
Eartha Kitt.
And last I checked, she's black.
You know what's interesting about? I think is interesting about this new Batman movie is what the other ones were not giving us. More than just a couple of villains at one time. It's giving us multiple potential villains in one movie versus Batman.
Yeah.
How are they going to handle that? Are they going to juggle that okay? You know, like the MCU.
I feel like Riddler was just the face value. Like Riddler's going to be the main, but he's not going to be the only.
Right.
The two storylines they're saying this is based on is A Long Halloween and Year 2. Long Halloween had a slew of villains, and the primary villain of it was Hush or Two-Face? I can't remember who it was. And Batman Year 2 had a slew of villains. However, primary person that he was concerned with was Riddler, because Riddler took over Gotham at that time. So yeah, having a bunch of villains, whatever, I can understand you getting upset about it, but if they're doing it based off the books and how well that storyline was, both those storylines were, I have no problem with it.
Oh no, I agree.
Let Matt Reeves do exactly how he's going to go.
No, that's something that I want to talk about, since we're kind of circling it a little bit. That Matt Reeves is pulling a little bit from source material. How close do you think movies, and this is opening up from just Batman, I mean like the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, every superhero movie you can think of, even the ones people have forgotten, like the original, I'm talking, people think the original Spider-Man movies was the trilogy, not realizing there was actually like some some
Japanese
stuff before
version
that people want to forget about, but they did happen. Same thing for Captain America.
Let me borrow your truck.
Ears. With the fake ears and everything. And so how do you guys feel about like when comic books deviate from source material to a degree? Like, I personally, depending on how far it goes, I personally don't mind. There's some things that are a staple that I feel you cannot change. Like, we all know, like we were talking about earlier, Batman's origins, right? Everybody knows it. To change it for a movie, to me, that's sacrilege. You couldn't do that. Like,
which side do you want me to answer?
Well, this is the thing. It's an open conversation. So hearing both sides is good, because there's probably people that'll agree with one of your sides, and there's people that agree with the other side. Me personally,
it has to be based on the movie and the time you have for the movie. You have a 2-hour movie, you can only fit so much in a 2 hour movie.
You can only do.
If you have a 5-hour movie, you can fit so much in a 5-hour movie. But who's really going to sit in a 5-hour movie? So you got to cut things here, make changes here to fit this 2-hour time span.
Well, that's why we're seeing these series, not necessarily superhero, but production, HBO and stuff, making these series like The Witcher, for instance, on Netflix.
Oh my God!
We're seeing instead of a movie, which cannot really give any due justice to any comic book, not truly, a series can to a much better extent than a movie, and I think that's what we're going to start seeing more of. With video games and comic books.
Well, DC does a good job on their shows, like The Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So fucking fantastic shows. And they did deviate a lot, but they did it in a way that made the story made sense. And it fit. And like, you're like, well, it didn't really go like this, but you know what? I'll allow it. And I see Burn there going hard.
Yeah, Burn is ready to go.
Burn is ready to go.
So, I'm a huge Oliver Queen fan, right? Huge Oliver Queen fan. The CW bastardized Oliver Queen to make him Bruce Wayne because they couldn't afford the rights to Batman.
I don't think they couldn't
I do agree there.
I thought they just made it like that because like they couldn't put the main Justice League in there.
They couldn't afford it.
Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. You can't really put them in a show.
Yeah.
No, they couldn't afford the rights to Batman at the time because they were making movies off the character, right? DC is just now getting in that flow of things to where they can actually utilize every character in every source material, right? When the CW first introduced these comic book movies, there was cash-offs behind it, right? So how do you get people to watch Green Arrow if you make Oliver Queen Oliver Queen? For a lot of people, it wouldn't work because to them, Oliver Queen would be too comical and not serious.
Lighthearted.
Yeah. Oliver Queen is probably the darkest, most lighthearted fucking superhero you ever. Because Oliver Queen will kill somebody. No shame. No fucking shame whatsoever. However, he is not brooding, stoic, and oh my god, what was me, what was me, what was me. Oliver Queen just doesn't give a fuck. But there's no appeal behind that character. They'd be like, oh, he's too lighthearted. He's too jokey. Oliver Queen, how people would have ended up taking that character, they would have been like, he's Iron Man with bones and arrows. Then like, he's Tony Stark's mentality with a bow and arrow. And they wouldn't have agreed with that, right? Whereas if you make him like Bruce Wayne, people already are like, DC's always dark. And that's where that goes. They did kind of similar with Barry. They didn't do it as bad with Barry because Barry, you have a little more leeway and you can make the character as close to how he was as possible. Barry isn't always serious, but he's not always comical, but he's not always, oh, I'm one track mind, I'm worried about this, and this. What they did for CW Barry was make it like, I deeply regret what happened to my mother, and anything I can do to change it, I'll make it happen. Whereas Barry, I
do want to say, for a lot of what keeps people coming back on the CW shows, and I notice this because it does keep me watching as well, and it's something that comic books couldn't really successfully do for as long because it's, you know, it's images on paper. So maybe for like a couple issues they could do it, but they couldn't do it for as long as TV shows do it. Is one thing that a lot of people in this day and age are fans of is when someone has a big secret that they're keeping from someone else close by. And all those DC shows are heavy in that. Something happens, they tell this person that they supposed to love to death. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. Or, you know, they're keeping this really big secret, and that could go for an entire season. And you look at it, in every season, that's the case. It just depends on who's keeping the secret that season. And it changes, and then without realizing it, and nobody notices, it just starts over. Once they've cycled through every character, then they start over, and then they have a new secret. And it just, the story goes from there. So that's kind of like the downside, too, of superhero shows.
They made Barry an idiot. Barry Allen is
very wrapped up in his emotions. He's very wrapped up in his emotions.
But Barry Allen was never somebody that used to like working as a team player for a long period of time. He was always, I'm gonna do this by myself. I'm fast enough. I can get out, boom, 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 and be done with it. And then the CW saw their formula with Arrow and was like, all right, cool. Green Arrow has a team. Let's give the Flash a team. And how dynamic works.
I feel like they want to, they can't, but they want to have they want to do what Smallville tried to do.
Have the justice.
Smallville, yeah, and they're trying at it again. The problem is
they're just now getting the rights.
The money, the rights, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of thin red tape they got to cut through to pull all these things together. And right now, especially with, and then, okay, kind of like changing gears a little bit here. As much as I'm looking forward to the new Batman movie, one trend that I wish, and this is kind of DC specific, Marvel found their track and they got on it and they've been sticking to it and it's been working for them. DC has been trying to find their place holding in movies. And I think their biggest problem is the fact they do keep starting over. They keep resetting. They haven't set an established universe, and when they did, because it didn't get the reception that they thought it would, that they wanted, they are like, okay, well, we're just going to drop it.
They got scared, and like, instead of pushing forward and just
push forward, like,
which would have been better, I think.
If they just stuck to their guns, pushed forward, it would have done well. I feel, and I always say this, if DC had not taken that long break, recovered from Batman and Robin a lot sooner, and tried again and was ahead of Marvel, the situation would have just been reversed. Yeah, the situation probably would have been reversed. Everybody would then be on a DC bandwagon, and probably with the same movies that Marvel put out, if they did the exact same thing, people would be like, people just gravitate to what comes first, and that's with like anything. Whatever newfangled thing comes out, people gravitate to it. They forget the old stuff, and whatever comes first, that's what people stick to. That's just we're creatures of habit. So DC had stuck to their guns and pushed. Even after the flops they had, they could be where Marvel is now, and they would have been fine.
And the other thing was, where Marvel kind of went right and it weirdly worked for them. Marvel took B and C listers and was like, man, fuck it, we'll make a universe out of it. DC, on the other hand, when they had the opportunity originally to make their extended universe, they were like, hey, nah, this movie flopped, we're gonna win. Which was supposed to be like this brand new Superman movie that was gonna have Nicolas Cage in it. We're not gonna talk about that.
I remember seeing the screen test. I remember seeing the screen test frame for. Oh man, that was weird. When he was being tested to wear the suit, it just didn't look right. It did not look right.
You know what? This is an opportunity, I think, for them to do what I think a lot of us wanted to see happen in the last set of Batman movies with Christian Bale. Is we've been disappointed with Robin's lack of presence. And this could be an opportunity to introduce Robin at a certain point, and then down the road introduce Teen Titans movie if they wanted to truly have a universe with the Justice League and Teen Titans. And I think this is an opportunity for them to start down that road.
Here's the thing with
Teen Titans.
Would love a Teen Titans movie.
Oh, I would love Teen Titans.
A real Teen Titan movie, not some goofy shit with a bunch of jokes. Like MCU got away with that. They can be kind of like, jokey and stuff like that. Funny, cheesy. I don't want to see that with DC. I want to see DC for what it is. I want to see the dark, real side of DC and Teen Titans and Justice League.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. How do you think people would react seeing a legitimate Teen Titans movie as gritty as it was? I mean, for the love of God, Raven fucking...
Oh, Raven's
poorly.
Amazing.
They would react poorly. And that's just because people are super sensitive in this day and age. Everything offends everybody. You sneeze wrong and you can offend somebody.
Yeah, Raven mutilated a priest.
I think DC.
Her father is literally the devil, so a lot of people forget that.
Their version of the devil.
Disney can't go down the MCU like they really could. DC, because they're not owned by Disney, right? So they can go darker. They can go down that path, and I think they should take that risk that Disney can't, because they're Disney. They're supposed to be, to an extent, family friendly.
Disney's taking that risk right now.
Yeah,
they're releasing like a Disney adult for like the rated R movies.
Right, but it's not like they've been doing this. This is a kind of new thing for them. They're putting their toes in the water.
But here's the thing.
Deadpool 3 is going to come out, and we'll see when that happens.
Right. But here's the thing with DC. No matter how you want to cut it, DC has been sticking to this formula in their movies up until more recently, where it's the Trinity, right? And not even the Trinity. It's 2 out of the 3 of the Trinity, right? People aren't ready to see a story of Superman where it's dark and gritty, where Superman actually fucking snaps. People aren't ready for that. People are damn sure not ready to see the more violent side of Batman's story. Right? As much as people praise Christopher Nolan for it, Christopher Nolan like scratched the surface of how dark the Batman mythos can really go. It just left it there because he didn't want to go supernatural with it, right? A lot of people would not know how to react to characters like Hush, or if they got how fucked up in the head Two-Face really could be, or having a Joker that is in the lines of Long Halloween. No, not Long Halloween. What the hell was the name of that storyline? God damn it. Where Joker pretty much killed a cop and let a whole orphanage full of babies die.
Have you seen Brightburn?
Yes,
I've seen Brightburn.
Brightburn's a good example, I think, of, that to me was a sort of a test to see how people would respond to, and it was very mixed.
It was very mixed. It was more people frowned upon it. It literally, and they pretty much admitted it. It was like they mirrored all the heroes.
Yeah, what if Superman would have said fuck it? Because they hit to Aquaman.
The movie wasn't wrong.
They hit it to Aquaman, they hit it to Wonder Woman, and ultimately he was Superman.
Yeah.
They were just missing a Batman.
Right.
Which would have been just some, very rich, it would have been Owl, basically. It would have been, it would have been Owlman. They just didn't have a kid running around in an owl suit is all. But it would have been Owlman.
It's true.
So that's all they were.
In my head, there's just like this whole skit playing. Owlman.
Wait, tell me you've read about Owlman though.
No, I know what you're talking about. I'm familiar. It's just in my head. I got kids, and I'm thinking like these kids. I have like a mix of stupid shit in my head right now.
But yeah, I personally liked Brightburn as much, and once I realized what they were doing, like I got the idea that that's what they were going for when the trailer dropped. But once I sat there and watched the movie, and I actually went to the movie theater and watched it, and I was like, yo, that's what they went for. I mean, I personally liked it. And would it pull at my heartstrings to see Injustice hit, like, be a movie or be a series, see the Injustice storyline finally get on a movie? Yeah, but that's the point. See Superman finally snap.
That's more like the storyline of Ultraman, right? Because at least in Injustice, Superman snapping, there was like other catalysts, but Ultraman is literally just a gaping dickhead from start to finish. Like, I've always been evil, and I snort fucking green kryptonite, like cocaine, and I kill people for shits.
I mean, they also, if they, wanted to, there's the alternate there's so many alternate versions of all these characters that they could, do movies for. I mean, because in the animated set, DC dominates.
Oh,
their animated movies are freaking
phenomenal.
Imagine origin stories, true origin stories of all the Teen Titans, especially Raven. How dark that would be.
A Raven movie. When was the last time you guys actually saw the NC-17 rating?
I mean,
that's just
every time I walk into the back of the Blockbuster through the beads. like rated R would even a Raven movie realistically would have to have two versions. The version that can be shown in theaters at no lower than rated R. If they pushed it any lower than rated R, it would be garbage. It would be a garbage movie. Straight to Blu-ray unrated version.
Straight to Blue, and then there's the straight to Blu-ray unrated. You literally couldn't. Yeah, it's just unrated, no rating.
It would have to be.
That would be it.
It would have to have, a psychological terror to it as well. It would be a horror. It would be a horror superhero movie. You would not take your kids to see it. This isn't Teen Titans Go. This is
they're going to take their kids to see it no matter what. It's like, it's Raven. It's from Teen Titans, from my childhood. Let's go watch it.
Wrong Raven.
This is the
close your eyes,
Raven. This is the one from my childhood comic books. Okay, gotcha.
What people don't remember about Raven is her fucking whole birth came about because her mom died. The first 5 minutes of that movie
that alone would shut a movie down, because that in all regards is an extremely touchy topic that even current movies have problem getting greenlit on, even if the scene is like 5 seconds, that's 5 seconds too long for most people. And then
that's when it's okay to make changes right there to the storyline, a movie versus a comic book, to deviate enough.
Well, like you brought up Teen Titans, right? The problem with Teen Titans, and I feel that's why they would be very weary on going in that storyline. Some of their bigger storylines is rather fucked up. How would people react to the Judas contract story? Especially
the relationship with Slade and Tara.
Yep.
Yeah. Tara's only age them up, if anything.
Then it wouldn't be the Teen Titans.
But they could still be considered the same team if they aged up a little bit. It's
weird.
It's weird.
Yeah. I think if there was a time to do it, now's the time to do it. They're gonna do the Batman thing. That's fine.
No one can touch pedophilia. Fucking Netflix tried to touch pedophilia and they got fucked in the ass.
Yeah, you can't. That
is a line you don't cross. There's
only one way they could get away with something like that, and it just wouldn't
get away
fly.
With that specifically. I just mean Teen Titans and stuff. Going down that route. I don't mean that.
We're talking about the Judas contract with Slade and Tara, so like that would touch into that
huge aspect of it.
And that's another reason why
Slade would literally
understand deviation from the comics.
Yeah. Slade would literally have to never show his face if they even attempted to do that. Slade would have to stay in costume
an actor who would even touch
the whole time.
Slade.
If Slade never had to show face, they probably would get some stunt person, and then they probably would have to piece together scenes.
The face of Slade? Who's going to be the true voice?
But they're
going to be targeted either way.
That's the thing. Yeah. Whoever voices Slade would be.
No matter how you put it, with that, even with that storyline with Deathstroke, that's one thing. Now you have another storyline of what made Raven snap before that wedding. Do you know? It's she watched a friend of hers. I can't remember which Teen Titan it was. Dr. Light raped that Teen Titan, and it caused Raven to have a mental breakdown, and then she murdered that person, Dr. Light. Then whole slew of other events, and she gets darker and darker and darker, and then she manifests herself into the sin of pride, and then she goes on a murder spree, starting at Dick's Race's wedding. Fun times.
In other words,
DC never got scary to touch murders because they've done that in almost everything now.
Yeah,
superhero will murder someone anywhere. And we're used to it by now with The Boys too, where we see fucking Homelander just laser people to death every time.
Yeah.
Well, they even toned down that.
I mean,
they did.
Hold on, I do have a question. Didn't they?
Compared to the comic.
Because it's kind of spoil. If you haven't seen The Boys season 1, I don't know what you've been doing with your life.
Boys season 2 coming out next week, guys. I'm hyped for it.
Yeah.
Pause this podcast. Go watch the whole first season. This is your last opportunity because I'm gonna drop a uncomfortable spoiler here. Pause. I'm gonna give you a second. Okay, now that you've gone and watched the whole first season and resumed this podcast,
how good was it?
Touch. First of all, yeah, it was fucking amazing, right? You're welcome. They did step into that forbidden territory because Homeland did rape. I can't remember the main character's name.
Butch's wife.
I just know Butch's wife, and I don't
in the comic. In the
show, they alluded to.
No. It shows them sneaking away with each other.
That's what I thought.
No, in the show, it's alluded that she was just sick of Billy and had sex with Homelander. In the comic, Homelander raped her and murdered her. That's what I'm saying. There's certain things that the show completely toned down compared to the comic.
I mean, they didn't tone down the blowjob.
They didn't tone down the gore.
Both of those things are serious red flag. Just even alluded to, even if they don't show the actual action, they didn't exactly cut scene. Like you saw.
Right. And who else laughed their ass off when that guy got blown up by a C4 suppository?
Oh man.
Oh man. I lied my ass off. I'm like, you got killed by a shit bomb.
But I think it comes down to something Yuli said earlier. It really probably comes down to who's willing to touch those roles, who's willing to put their career on the line that could either make it or break it. And it also comes down to the backlash of the community, because in the end, you could be phenomenal at the role. You might not like the role, but sometimes because you don't like a role, you can probably put your best into it. Because if you're supposed to be an angry asshole and you get a role you don't like, you're going to be angry because you got the fucking role you don't like. You'll be that angry asshole.
You know what? A perfect example of someone getting away from a role would be Jeff Goldblum. His first movie was Death Wish, and he was part of a crew that raped the dude's daughter.
Yeah.
And that's a line we don't touch, but Jeff Goldblum isn't playing any more rapists along the line.
Yeah, he's just on the chaos theory and fusing with flies, man.
Pretty much.
And he's a very respected actor still. I mean, did his state put a statue of him up?
Yeah. Well, another person we could talk about is Leonardo DiCaprio. He played a slave owner in Django Unchained.
Yeah.
I'll argue
Sugar,
that,
right? Mr. Sugar, whatever his name was. Something.
Candy.
Mr. Candy.
Mr. Candy.
I will argue that one because Leonardo DiCaprio is so loved and he's already been so well established. The actor I was going to say is Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci.
So what's the name of that goddamn movie? He played a child rapist and murderer in a movie.
I remember.
Oh, nah. He actually felt so uncomfortable with that role. The Lovely Bones, if you ever seen The Lovely Bones, that movie made him so goddamn uncomfortable. He was like, I can't stomach filming the rest of this part right now. I need to take like a 2-day break. Right? He still kind of deals with the stigma of playing that character. That's something he admitted. He was like, I called my daughter the second after that scene was filmed, everything like that. I felt completely fucking disgusted with myself. He's like, and there's people that still kind of get upset with me about that to this day. But
which is understandable to a very huge extent. It's extremely understandable, and I want everyone who's listening to understand. I'm definitely not saying, you know, hey, they need to completely stick to this and go the whole mile. I'm pretty sure we all agree changes for things like that make sense, or, you know, it could just be for me, I say it could be referenced to, if they don't want to deviate from it, they could just say, you know, oh, this shit happened. People will get the message. Cool, move on.
The best way I've seen people reference it was like the daughter is sitting on the edge of the bed and the dad walks in, takes off his belt. That's it. Then they cut it off there and we're like, we know what happened.
We know what happened.
We don't need to see anything else.
Yeah. We get it.
Don't even tell us anything else. Don't even say nothing else after. Just leave it at that. Move on. We already hate the person. Let's not push it.
So I think I do think superhero, especially with superhero movies, they try to play it safe, and they're for obvious justifiable reasons, because as I said earlier, people in this day and age are very, very sensitive. So it's understandable that because it's they can get away with it in a book because let's be honest, you know, people don't read, and most people you're selective of what you pick up off the shelf. Most people are going to be, when you see people in the comic book shop, they know what they're looking for. They know what they're getting themselves into. They can peruse it before they buy it. If they see something they don't like, they can put it on the shelf.
You're in a comic shop. There is nothing there for you. Go to the kids section where Barney's at. Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you doing in here?
I agree.
Book here, you see, will fucking piss you off some way or another.
Yeah. But you know, some people let's be honest. Some people sometimes just go looking for a fight. They might idle curiosity.
A good example of like Like if they do frame for frame from the I'm even talking about manga, that would fuck people up. Would be on Attack on Titan.
Oh yeah, man.
That one. If they did that frame for frame from the manga
to be an HBO show type situation.
Oh, not even that. It'd be fucking in Gorefest somewhere around here.
Japan itself hasn't even done that. They've done a live action creation,
and they deviated so far. Exactly. It's like, guys, even
I didn't even like the movie. I was like, this.
Yeah, they didn't even touch it. And there's several, and anime is its own beast in and of itself, because anime doesn't shy. I will say this: we take free liberties in our comic book pages the way Japan will take free liberties with their anime.
Bro,
we can't even do that.
Live action show.
Even I would be, just from how Guts wound up being, the way he is. That whole scene alone, that wouldn't fly in America. That would not fly in America.
That barely flew in Japan.
Yeah, that just doesn't fly. It doesn't
Remember,
work.
the anime hasn't even touched on Guts' birth like that.
So
they allude to it, but they don't touch on his childhood that deep. Thankfully,
because we know it's gonna fuck people up if they watch it.
Oh god, yeah.
So with this all and everything we've talked about, with this all in consideration, I guess we're in agreement that in some regards it's okay to deviate from the source material. So I guess I want to say, on the flip side, when is it not okay to deviate from the source material? Are you okay?
So many more answers to that.
The one that comes to mind about like when they deviated in the wrong direction, Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah.
In which regard?
And then I'm gonna be honest, I hate the Joker. That deviated so much. I'm like, from what I like, my Joker, the one that I like,
totally portrayed every character in that movie.
Yeah.
I
I fucking hate that.
Warner's is just like, no,
I'm sorry,
you get no slack from me.
There are only three characters I like: Captain Boomerang, Deadshot, and Harley Quinn.
All right, I like
everybody else
Deadshot.
can fuck off.
Harley Quinn.
I will argue the Joker, because a lot of people give fucking. Why did I just get you?
Jared Leto. I'm not giving him shit. I'm literally giving the writers shit. It's all on the writers.
No, I don't blame the writers. I blame DC for cutting out 90% of what he was supposed to have in that film.
That is true. He did have a lot cut.
They released what the original intention of the Joker was and what that movie was supposed to be. It had very little to do with Enchantress. But because of how Batman vs. Superman's fucking reaction was, they ended up cutting out all the Jokers, predominantly all the Joker shit, and only kept about 10% of what he really was there for. And then pushed fucking Enchantress as the main villain. Enchantress was not the main villain. Originally, it was supposed to be Joker and a dirty bomb.
It seemed like it was supposed to be like that. Now that I think about it, it seems like that
Joker had a nuke in Bloodhaven. That was the storyline of Suicide Squad. That was originally the intention. But because of how dark the story was supposed to be, and how the reception of Batman vs. Superman was about it being too dark, they lightened up the movie. So they changed the main villain from Joker to Enchantress. Joker was actually going to be the shit in that movie. And I have no doubt in my mind Jared Leto was going to kill that role. However, because of the fact the whole bad reception of Batman vs. Superman, they completely fucking nixed the idea. Because Joker was supposed to be the psychotic mob boss that they originally intended to be, and he was supposed to have a dirty fucking nuke in Bloodhaven or Gotham. I want to say it was Bloodhaven.
Product of its times, because if it wasn't for the MCU at the time, with all their jokes and lightheartedness throughout their movies, if that wasn't something going along parallel with that, people would have gone in.
Superman good then? What changed? Like, It literally did start from Batman vs Superman fucking everything up the way it did.
So
what change would you add?
The problem with Batman vs Superman is Zack Snyder is either hate him or you love him. There's no in between. There's really not an in between with Zack Snyder. You either hate how he directs or you love how he directs. Right? There's not a lot of people that will sit here and say Zack Snyder's okay, or they'll give him credit for one thing and then disagree with him for another. Most people, when it comes to Zack Snyder, it's either this was a piece of fucking shit all the way through, or this was the greatest thing I've ever fucking seen. I'm really weird about Zack Snyder, and I will openly admit that. I will praise him for his visual effects. I don't think he's the strongest story writer in the world, but people try to make his visual effects seem like it's more mythical than they seem. Right? So the bad reception of Batman vs Superman fucked up anything that David Ayer tried to do with Joker and the Suicide Squad. Because they were going to touch on Robin in that movie. Batman was going to have a bigger cameo in that movie, a bigger role in that movie to begin with. And Joker, again, was going to be more than just a 10-minute cameo. But DC did not like how the reaction to Batman vs Superman was, so they made it a lighthearted movie.
Once again, the fear took over of reaction. They let a little bit of negativity influence what could have been something so much more. And this is where, and I'm not blaming it like in a whole sense, because I love what they've done. I love what they established, but this is just a sense of when a bar has been set. And this is kind of, not that they did it on purpose, but honestly, it's kind of Marvel's fault. Because the bar, because look at the mass amount of people that know the Marvel Cinematic Universe. People who have never touched a comic book a day in their life.
Getting to earlier.
Yeah, the people who've never touched a comic book a day in their life know about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know because I've had friends today.
Yeah.
And they'll take their girlfriend, or they'll, girlfriend will take their boyfriend. They've never known anything, but they know the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then after that, then they got invested into the comics. But however, how Disney has crafted, how Disney had these movies come out, we are now used to superhero movies having a deep story, but lighthearted humor. I mean, think about how much blood you've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay. You want me to argue that too?
I would argue that DC is their own worst enemy.
Yes. DC went and tried to make their movies like their flagship movie, The Dark Knight. DC has been trying to catch the feeling of The Dark Knight all over again. And they have yet to do it the way they expected. The Dark Knight is DC's biggest worst enemy, because they are trying to stick with that formula of how The Dark Knight was dark and gritty and realistic. That's what's fucking them up. I do not blame Marvel for this. They're not.
But if they wanted to stick realistic, then I don't agree with that, because Justice League was so far from realistic.
Justice League also had two separate directors. We do not know the original direction of Justice League based on how everybody is saying right now.
That second director directed what?
The Avengers. However, that second director took majority of the pieces from what originally was and spliced in probably like 30 minutes what originally was said, and now it's a whole other fucking thing about it. Now, this is why I'm going to argue that point, right? Everybody likes to bring up that Marvel is why DC has been trying to catch jokes. No, DC has been trying to stick with the dark formula, because think about all their movies they released in the DCU. When has Superman's origin, like beginnings, I should say, ever been dark and gritty? Superman really doesn't go dark and gritty till he's well established, because he always had Martha and Pa Kent as that little voice of reason. It isn't until Pa Kent ends up dying is where oh shit, that trigger kind of snaps in him a little bit. And even at that, it took a lot of fucking catalyst. And it wasn't
I gotta ask a question because I'm thinking back to every Superman movie, all the way back to Christopher Reeves. Which movie had his origin be dark? Because if you're thinking Man of Steel, that wasn't his origin being dark because he said in the movie he was in his 30s.
Right.
He was in his 30s when he finally actually donned the cape, and then it went from there to a darker tone.
What I mean by darker tone, Man of Steel had a darker tone.
I mean, yeah, when his when Papa Kent died, but even then he didn't take up the mantle.
Right. But Papa Kent doesn't die for a long fucking time in most aspects. Papa Kent lives to see him get married. And damn near have a kid.
Haven't they alternated in some of the stories which of his parents died too?
No. It's usually always Papa Kent. It's usually always Jonathan Kent that dies. And it's usually by a heart attack.
Or
I mean,
one time.
I also got a guy. Still think Smallville did it the best way though. Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I think DC is their own worst enemy is because Marvel doesn't have a good animated anything, really. But DC has everything animated. Fucking fantastic. What they didn't want to do was take their animated shit and make it live action, which probably would have been a little bit more successful.
Probably.
Because you already fit it in an animated form, in a 2-hour format. You don't have to take it scene by scene, but take a lot of faith in that and move it to the big screen. You'll probably succeed better than this movie was trash. I don't like it.
Written for you. It's successfully already written for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
The rush job. Thing number 2 is the rush job that they've tried to do.
Rushing the shit out of it.
So why are we having a Flashpoint movie already?
Because they fucked up so bad. Now they want to reset everything.
Wonder Woman, right now, to me, Wonder Woman is probably the only one of their movies in the DCU that hit a good formula, hit a good stride formula in terms of, hey, this is what's going on. We show her origin. We did this. We did this. We did this. You don't always have to show an origin story for every character. I agree with that, right? Do we need another origin story of Superman? Not necessarily. Do we need another origin story for Batman? No. Hell no. But Wonder Woman, yeah. Fucking
It's been a long time since she had a movie.
Aquaman, yeah. She had a TV movie, I think.
Yeah, it was like a TV's, yeah.
Good old Linda Carter. But Aquaman, of course. Most people don't even know the origin of Aquaman until the recent movie.
Do we need to know the origins of Aquaman?
Let alone the full extent of his
talks to
actual
fish.
abilities. See, that's why they needed it. He's a guy that talks to fish. You're not wrong.
You're not wrong, but you are wrong.
You found the guy and made fun of him at least 6 or 7 times.
Oh, man.
That scene when they're all flying, floating in air, and they're like waiting for him. All right, let me get in. Fucking slams on his ass, and they're all just laughing at him.
Like, people don't realize that fucking Aquaman can fly, do other things. There's a whole slew of abilities he has. But most people don't know that because it's fucking Aquaman. You know, it's a shame. I'm just saying. Aquaman has some of the greatest storylines in DC, but they don't touch on it because he talks to fucking fish.
That's what people get stuck with. The man talks to fish.
The fish. Right? I mean, The Flash, if you did a Flash storyline, you're pretty much nixing all the good storylines you can have with The Flash. You're pretty much not allowing Eobard Thawne to come into existence and do a thing. You're not establishing any of the other future Flashes that are going to come about, like Wally West and all that shit, and you're going straight for the jugular and doing Flashpoint. The storyline, that's not even 10 years old. Well, that's barely 12 years old right now.
I mean, at least the TV show waited a little bit before they before they touched it, which then, you know, they already opened the door and they're trying to capitalize on it before people forget, because Crisis on Infinite Earth already confirmed the movie universe and the TV universe have met. The two Flashes have met. So they're trying to capitalize on that before it fades from memory, because out of sight, out of mind. So now they're racing against the clock.
But they were already going to do a Flashpoint movie. That was already established before Crisis on Infinite Earth was even.
Oh, it was like in the talks during Justice League.
But besides diehard fans, who really was paying attention to it, who really at the time cared until they put it in front of our faces with the show. You care.
A lot of people that were following.
Well, here's another thing. Who really cares about the live action movies and not the animated? Like, people now care more about the DC.
That's what I'm saying. We say a lot of people, but it kind of comes to something I say before. When we say a lot of people, are we talking about the crowd that's louder, or are we actually talking numbers? Because the crowd that's louder may seem like a lot of people because they'll be outspoken compared to the people that actually watch and are passive about it. Because I'm a passive person. I'm not a vocal person. I'm not in the forums. So I'm probably one of those thousands of people who's a fan of the comics, of the shows, but you would never hear my voice compared to like you, Burn, who's actually active in the forums and gets heard. So it comes out to, you know, we can't really say a lot because it could be 50-50 down the middle.
That's still a lot, though. Even saying 30% is still a lot.
I mean, yeah.
So like, I'm just saying, if I say a lot, I'm just playing on that. There's enough to say a lot.
I mean, because obviously with Sonic, you know, that.
Well, Sonic's the great example of like the loudest people got them to change the way Sonic looks. Like,
change to happen.
The movie is fucking great. I've seen it.
Out of every superhero movie and video game movie, apparently you don't fuck with Sonic, because I've never seen that kind of outcry.
I think that was the one time I was vocal, and I was like, "Yo, you gotta change."
Been playing that since Sonic 1.
Whoever's editing this video, put a picture of the original Sonic that was supposed to be in the movie, and then put one of the new one,
the new Sonic
was released, and let us know which one would you fucking pick. Like, do you pick this one, please do that. Or not this one, right? Yeah, split it up.
Side by side, right over Craig. Nobody cares about Craig. Nobody cares about Craig. You stick it right over Craig's face.
Stick right over Craig. Like, holy shit. That was terrifying. I had nightmares of the first Sonic.
Yeah, they tried to...
I want to know, hold up. Spoiler alert, everybody. If you haven't seen the Sonic movie, spoiler alert. We all know Tails was at the end. So I want to see Tails pre-change. How fucked would he have looked? Ooh. How terrifying would that be? I want to see that. I want to see that.
I don't need to see that.
No, let's not. I hope that. I would be willing to bet anything that all that original footage with the original Sonic has been burned, and only one person has that copy, and it was probably the person tasked with deleting it.
yo, what happens if they released it? They'd be like, original Sonic movie, $5.99. How many people would buy it just to watch it with that original Sonic?
Why were we not this outspoken like we were with Sonic about that damn Dragon Ball movie? Had we been that outspoken,
speaking of the Dragon Ball movie, not a lot of like social media was out there. Twitter wasn't really started.
That's true.
So like the outcry was mainly.
It did come out. Yeah, it did come out in like the early years of Twitter.
Yeah. It's not as big as it is right now.
Now. Like, it's not. It's more meaningful now.
Best thing you could have done was write an email to the producers.
Yeah,
but
and let's be honest.
People were vocal about it. People were very vocal about that movie, right? However, they were like, "Oh no, we're trying to touch the American market, so we're gonna bastardize
the American market." Was like, you don't.
You had us back in the '80s with Drake. Come on, we were already there. We were already there.
You don't fuck with our Sonic, and you don't fuck with our Dragon Ball.
Trunks movies on YouTube, right? The future
fan-made ones.
Yeah.
Oh man, those are good.
They were actually pretty good. I used to think I was like, okay, maybe Dragon Ball is just I don't know, too complicated to try and do live action.
Maybe would be an issue, but
Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball itself would be a very simple movie to make. Very simple storyline to make. However, we bastardize everything we touch that's anime. Except Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell wasn't that typical.
Tokyo Ghoul?
Organized anime movies. We should leave those to the Japanese. They already do. Well, never mind.
We shouldn't even leave it to the Japanese. They fuck it up too.
Tokyo Ghoul was not bad. Tokyo Ghoul, in my personal opinion, was not bad.
Bleach.
Get out.
I think animes should not be put on the cinema. It should not be. Leave it in anime.
Have be made it's live action.
Don't let us
maybe like 3D CGI. Like Final Fantasy. You remember Final Fantasy?
That was good.
What was that?
I was fine with that.
Spirit Within.
Spirit Within.
It didn't have anything to do with any storyline, but it was all right.
But if they did the animations like that and made them into movies, I would have preferred that. Like that's as close as live action you're gonna get. Like fuck it. You could do more with it.
Death Note, not the American Death Note.
I was about to tell you to get out again. Don't you bring that movie up.
Yo, Willem Dafoe does make a good Ryu though.
Yeah, okay. They did another version.
The Japanese Death Note live action was good, right?
They actually had 2 movies, didn't they?
3. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable was not a terrible live action movie. However, for every not terrible live action Japanese anime movie that is made by Japan, right, you end up with Bleach, Attack on Titan.
Netflix had a hand in that, though.
What, Bleach? No, they didn't. No. Bleach was already established. It's just to bring it over to the States, they foot the bill. That's the
shit. Damn, I thought I could give them a little leeway there.
Imagine how stomach churning a true Attack on Titan series or movie would be, though.
Oh, we talking about that.
People would cry in the car. People would cry in the car.
Not even cry in the car. Like
even I would be like, oh, that's hard.
People walking out, puking, and like losing their shit.
And here's the thing. You know, actually, backpedaling a bit on the fact that we were given leeway that people wouldn't be able to stomach it. Yet, how many people know the movie of like, and it kind of deviating, but showing that these movies can get away with shit? The original version of The Descent and Human Centipede.
Yeah. God, no.
The original Descent, man. Whew.
And just to show we're touchy, we're the ones who got the edited version and not the original version. Yeah.
Oh, wait, you guys haven't seen the original version?
Oh, I've seen the original version.
It's fun.
I think we saw it together, actually.
Yeah. And I was like, why didn't we get this?
I remember I said, oh my shit, what the fuck is wrong with this?
Have you seen What's As Above, As Below?
It's like
Tomb Raider horror movie.
I
want to see more horror Tomb Raider. That's what I want to see.
I liked that movie. I liked it because it played more on the psychological and that's the thing. A lot of movies feel like, you know, it's got to be in your face, but if you just there's a little nuance that some movies have nailed that can be very unnerving, such as certain sounds that when the human ear hears it,
I want to call out
literally makes you unnerving.
I want to call out one movie. And this movie is supposed to be a horror movie, but I'm going to call it out because we're talking about movies. Hereditary. Whoever said that movie was scary or unnerving or anything.
There was one scene in that whole movie. There was only one scene in that movie
that they tried to make controversial.
There's 2 movies that they were praising as being super great horror films, Hereditary and The Witch. I watched The Witch.
I didn't watch
The Witch. I watched it all the way to the end, and I was like,
thriller. The Witch is more of a thriller.
What? I was like, I'm waiting to be scared, and I wasn't scared. I was like, I will go back and watch the first Insidious. That got me a little, at least
First
a little bit of
Phoenix was
goosebumps
scary.
going.
The first one was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was creepy. The first one.
The first one was
The first one had the only
perfection.
jump scare that got me was when the lady was talking about the shadow that she saw point to her son. Out of nowhere, you see Darth Maul in the background, but it was scary Darth Maul, and you jump. You're like, oh, shit!
So this is what he was doing.
Darth Maul in here? Shit, Darth Maul? Fuck, dude, don't scare me like that. Ah, goddamn.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of the wrong movie.
lightsaber.
What the hell is the name of that movie where it's about the mysterious families all dying and it's being filmed?
Sinister.
Sinister.
Yeah, Sinister.
Sinister is the reason I didn't want another child for like 2 years.
I actually like Sinister.
I enjoy
Movie
I
was-
like-
that's a good example of a movie that makes you kind of like a little sick to your stomach, just a little bit. I watched it. I was like, I wasn't unbothered. I was just like, oh shit! Like,
I was surprised they went that far, like showing the lawnmower run over a family member.
yeah.
Alligator
that did
bite
catch me
people.
off guard.
I was like, oh god, they really went this far. I had a smile on my face. I'm not gonna lie, like they went that far.
I preferred the first one over the second one. But
Oh, the second one was pure trash.
Oh yeah.
My point
first one was
is,
good. They should
I
have-
like- when we talk about horror movies that made me question some shit, yeah, that movie made me question having another child. Like, oh, you bastards, y'all can't get me if I only got one.
It's always gotta have a sibling. If you stop before they have a sibling, you're good. You're fine.
on the subject of deviating from movies and novels and stuff, no one has believed me the past few days, but I've read The Shining several times in my life. Just,
Oh yeah, Shining was deviating like a mother.
I watched the movie with the woman Jack Nicholson for the first time about a week ago. I'd never seen it before. I'd never seen it. Like I understood references and stuff because I'd seen like clips and stuff, but I'd actually never sat down and watched it. I had never been more upset about a fucking movie. Like,
It's not a bad movie.
it's not a bad movie, but I was like, what the there were so many things that could have just made that.
Well, I think
They just deviated in a way that it really did upset me.
That movie came out in a time where they would have followed the book. Because you gotta remember, Stephen King's a fucked up person. That book, I mean,
look
book
at
came-
the
Writes
Tim Curry's
really
It.
long books.
yeah, it changed a lot of shit.
oh my.
Oh yeah, if they would have did what their blood bond was, people would have been like,
Yeah,
get the
people
fuck
would have
out.
lost their shit.
Well, I watched Doctor
Ooh.
Sleep right after it, and I see what that director did. My opinion, he did an amazing job taking
still trying
the
to-
parts that were missing from the original movie that were in the book and tying it in there and
a
giving
lot of
us an
people-
explanation.
A lot of people didn't know Dr. Sleep and fucking what's his face were connected, and that it was a true sequel to.
Right.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't know that, and they don't realize, hey, that's Danny from fucking what's his face? Oh, why did I
Right.
just read?
But
I haven't watched the movie. I read the book.
yeah, and I just wanted to use that as an example. For me, that was like the most recent thing I had, seen and read and stuff, and I was like, what the hell?
Oh yeah, the Shining. They pretty much took all the psychic shit out of the way, and then just made it a fucked up psychological thriller.
I will say, it will be. It's hard, even if they try to imitate books and source material 100%. Because like we were saying earlier, you've got a small window of time. You've got a window of, from start to finish, filming, editing, all that stuff.
Right.
So they're always trying to go for, okay, well, what was the juiciest parts? And it's kind of left up to interpretation, really. I mean, because you could go to the author and as the writer, you might feel this part is really what's going to grip people, but the part you thought would be boring is what drew everyone in. So it's kind of hard to figure out like what to keep and what to omit.
Should
I
the
guess.
author not be a part of production as a person? Like, if you want to make a good movie based off a novel or whatever,
That's
should
a
you
good
not
I'll
have
give
the
you
author?
an example of why that doesn't always work. right? Watchmen. Watchmen is scene for scene almost exactly how the fucking graphic novel. However, the writer of the graphic novel hates, and I do mean this, hates every form of media based off of his writing. A lot of people didn't know that. That man hates anytime you make a comic book movie, anytime you make an animated movie, anything dealing with his original work, he is not for it, right? There's actually 2 comic book writers that are really bad about that.
That's understandable, because it's kind of like, it's not in the same category, but it's kind of like there's some actors who will never watch a movie that they've acted in because that just doesn't vibe with them well. So it's kind of like, and as a person who does write, I would say if I actually, had something that ever took off and was like, hey, we want to make a movie out of it, I probably at first would seem excited, but then I probably wouldn't want to be a part of the creative process because I know what my vision for my story is. No one is going to know your vision better than you, but then trying to convey your vision to all these, because when you go to the table and they're pitching this to you like, hey, we want to turn your thing into a movie, all they're thinking is dollar signs. That's all they're thinking. They're thinking cost of production, but
when they ask for creative, can we buy your license to make this movie? How many zeros?
Yeah.
How many zeros are you talking about?
Right? Alan Moore is who I was speaking of. But Alan Moore, 90% of the media that has been turned from his writing into a movie, he is hating. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He was actually on the
writing staff. That was just a bad movie.
It was really bad.
It was really bad. He was there as a consultant.
It was so bad. They're like, we need Sean
Connery quit.
Sean Connery
because of that.
Has he acted since after that? I think that was
he has. He has.
Oh, he has?
Yeah, he has.
Really like the straight to DVDs?
No, just like side characters, like background people.
Watchmen. He hated Watchmen. He hated V for Vendetta. Mind you,
I actually like V for Vendetta.
He was a consultant for both movies and a writing consultant. He just hates seeing his media turned into an actual movie.
V Vendetta did pretty decent justice in the time frame they used. I thought they did an all right job. I mean, I personally love that movie.
I just remembered a animated movie that was from Alan Moore. They made it into a movie and they added something that really just didn't need to be there. The Killing Joke.
Yep.
The Batman and Batgirl.
Yeah.
Love scene.
Oh,
not needed to be needed.
Yeah.
Never. Like, why would they add that?
You know who else is really notorious about hating his work turned into live action? Frank Miller.
Oh, now, yeah.
Yep. Frank Miller, he wanted a Daredevil movie, but he felt a way about how Daredevil would be made. Because if anybody ever did a live action Daredevil before the Netflix series, it would have been a little bit challenging to do because a lot of people think Daredevil was just like a rip-off of Batman, but Daredevil really has a lot of fucked up things going on for him. And making it PG-13 doesn't work. So when he was consulted about making the Daredevil movie, the second they found out that they were going to tone it down, he was like, what the fuck's the point? Mind you, he was in the movie. He was the coroner in one of the scenes. Also, another prime example of Frank Miller hating the movie that he did, Sin City.
I was just thinking about that.
I was
just thinking about that.
Absolutely hated Sin City. He hates 300.
I actually like both of those movies.
Yeah, but the
voice right there was like, really like.
But the whole thing with Frank Miller is he hates seeing his work turned into live action.
I'll watch a Spartan kick someone down a well any day of the week, but
he said something like a visual fucking
gore fest.
No, not gore. He said it was visual porn, but there was no substance compared to what he wrote.
Oh, that makes sense.
I mean,
As you understand.
it all comes down to it comes down to the original writer's personal feeling, I guess. Honestly,
He refuses to let somebody do the Dark Knight Returns. He still refuses because people have.
I
asked
mean,
him.
if it's your creation, then yeah, you should have that power. I feel like once you turn it over and greenlight it, then you can't really. I think at that point, you should kind of just sit back and see what happens. Because if your story is good and you've already established it and people know your book, you're not going to lose sales. If anything, yeah, your movie will get panned, but you'll still get royalties from it as long as you negotiate your contract properly. So you'll make extra money. And if anything, it might drive up your book sales because people are going to want to see, okay, I got to find out where they fucked this up. And then they read the book and they like the book and find out the book is actually better. I mean,
I can give you a really great example of that. A movie that the book was so controversial that they deviated so far from the original novel that it made the movie successful and iconic in its own way. Starship Troopers. Absolutely, almost nothing like the book. The book is one of the most controversial political books to have existed. Few people really know that. And when they made the movie,
and they made the movie about a fucking alien,
right? Which it's in the book, but very little. It's mentioned very little. Right.
Like, and they changed the main characters.
Right. And there was nothing in that book that was funny or comical. Like it was. It's a damn good book. I always suggest it to people if they want something that's controversial and political. Just to get your mind.
Rico is still mentally fucked up about that. And they barely touch on the war and his story.
Yeah.
But the movie.
They'll never make that movie like the book. No. It won't happen.
Especially not in this day and age.
And I'm a huge Starship Trooper movie fan. Like I love the first movie. I think it's awesome in its own right. You know, in my head I separate it from the book for sure. And I do enjoy it for what it is.
It's a very Marxist book.
Oh, yeah.
And you know how we could get these movies made that we want? We have to turn it over to a different market outside of America. And if you really pay attention to it, there is movies that like the French make that when we see it, we're like, whoa, there's no way this would have been made in America. And I'm sure
Japanese horror is a good example.
Oh my God, yes.
We've got to turn over. It's like, look, we want this movie made. Send it. Oh my gosh, their horror movie. Oh my gosh, there's
quite a few European horror
movie of the decade. I will fight that. Train to Busan.
Train to Busan.
Best zombie movie of the decade.
Yeah. Nothing's gonna top that for a while.
Oh my God.
For a while.
Yo, I watched it with fucking Lady Bird, and it made her cry like she just witnessed it's just tears throughout the whole movie. It's so good.
It's and they don't pull punches. There's they
go all out.
With them, there's no guarantee on happy endings. With the American market, more than likely you're like, all right, you kind of know how horror films are gonna end. All right, we think the problem's been solved, but you're gonna show this quick scene and cut to credits. Yay! Spooky, 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 spooky.
Well, Sinister wasn't like that either way.
Sinister is like one of those great examples of like where you're hoping that the dad will figure it out, solve the problem. They moved houses, happy ending, right? And then nope, nope. You fell into the trap. Congratulations, your life is fucked. And
now you're
like, and it's just, but that is a whole rabbit hole of another thing. We could probably have that for another podcast. A rabbit hole of horror movies. Because I love horror movies.
Oh man,
America has a nasty habit of when they bring over a film that was originally from a different market. So, two prime examples of movies that people don't know is from a foreign market. Let Me In, or Let the Right One In.
Yeah, the original. The original Let Me In.
Yes.
Was it French?
Swedish. And it was a lot more fucked up and a lot more breaky. And The Departed is not an American idea. Martin Scorsese capitalized on a movie that is actually Korean.
There was a video I watched there was a video I watched where it highlighted like 10 famous films that were actually from other countries that people just did not know were from other countries.
The Departed was originally based off a movie from Hong Kong called Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs is a phenomenal if you ever get the chance to watch it. But they changed certain aspects. No, it makes perfect sense.
The Departed sounds... Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. Let's be honest.
It makes more sense when talking about a internal struggle between a cop faking to be a mafioso and a mafioso faking to be a cop. Internal Affairs makes a lot more sense.
You're looking at it from the logical and not what will sell standpoint. That's why
called Internal Affairs.
But most people are probably going to be like, Internal Affairs. Oh, okay. Like me, like if the title's not catchy, it's not going to catch my interest right away. Like Internal Affairs right then and there, even though I am all big about Asian film, that to me just sounds like a political drama delving. Perfect example, a court-based movie that had a little supernatural twist. Devil's Advocate. I hate court movies of any type. But because that title was just so daggone catchy, I actually watched it and found out I liked it. I watched The Departed because the title was captivating. The same rule applies for YouTube as it does for book cover. If you don't catch that person within the first 20 seconds of them picking it up,
has not made a terrible fucking movie a day in his life.
I mean, yeah. So
y'all thought about it.
I had to think about it real quick. Like you're not wrong, but he also was clever on how he named it, because that name, once you've seen the movie, the title makes sense as well. Especially at the end. I mean, a lot of souls got departed from their bodies by the end of that film, so it works out. So and look at the market we're in. Like you got to be snazzy here. You got to catch in the American market. You got to catch our attention within the first 30 seconds. If you don't, you lost it. The person's not coming back. So the titles, they got to catch it. Where like other countries, people are, I guess, are like more willing to give things a chance.
I'll name a movie that proves the wrong that the title doesn't need to be catchy. John Wick. That movie, not a lot of people heard about it. Not a lot knew. Like from my circles, not a lot of people knew about it. I went to see it just on a whim. Like it was Saturday night, nothing to do. Movies were full. The only one that wasn't, John Wick. Went to see it, told everyone about it. A couple months later along the line, fucking amazing movie.
I'm gonna tell you, I would be willing to argue that a good selling point is the fact that Keanu Reeves is so loved in Hollywood. I don't think if he had gotten cast, if John Wick had been cast by anyone else without that same kind of charisma and presence, I don't think it would have gotten the love that it did after the fact. And you said it yourself. What was it like? Was it before or after you saw it that it had more people?
It was after when you saw it, more people were talking about it.
More people went.
What the fuck? Where were you all guys?
Why did you guys see sleep?
What happened?
But that's the thing. I think when it first came out, people did sleep on it because the name. They're like, okay, John Wick, okay, and it took people taking a chance on it, which that will always happen. There's always
people who did take the chance on it, telling other people about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a person that took a chance on it because I like Keanu Reeves. And I think that's kind of what the draw was. And now when people see the name John Wick, they're like, oh, shit, yeah. But, I mean, knowing John Wick and now Keanu Reeves is John Wick, like who could have filled that? Who could have been John Wick first and still brought that much attention to it?
It wouldn't have worked.
No. You know,
I'll be
the
one
new
to-
Matrix, this new Matrix movie they're working on. If Keanu Reeves is not in it,
Shouldn't happen. I'm sorry.
Shouldn't.
all I'm saying is if Keanu Reeves was not part of it, nobody would care.
I think that too. Keanu
I
Reeves,
completely.
Why would they continue it anyway?
because technically,
I think it's an alternate
never-ending cycle.
version or something. I don't know.
Money.
Money.
You ain't even
and-
having Morgan Freeman in it. Oh, not Morgan Freeman. God damn it. Wow, I confused you.
Lawrence Fishburne?
Morgan Fishburne.
Oh,
I was looking
you're
on my phone.
I just pictured Morgan Freeman in all the Matrix movies, and I'm like, that sounds amazing.
Hold on, I can't let
have-
Bird silence this way. He's as
I
bad
know.
as he's NBC News. Call it Kevin Hart, Usain Bolt.
No, I can explain what happened.
Morgan
There's
Freeman.
a picture of Morgan Freeman on my phone, and I was looking at that picture, and I said that shit, and I was like, "Oh my god, I really just called that man Morgan Freeman."
I want to watch the Matrix movies now, but with commentary by Morgan Freeman during the movie.
Oh,
I mean,
Lawrence Fishburne, that was all burned. If you haven't in the far-flung future, or you already listened to this, he is on his own. we did not piggyback off of that. That was totally him.
that was my
Hold up.
apologies, concern.
Lawrence Fishburne, if you're actually listening to this, dog, I love all your movies. I'm one of the top actors out here.
I don't know. I still feel a way about what's love got to do with it.
I don't care, man. I see Lawrence Fishburne in it. I know I'm going to enjoy just his acting scenes. That's it. No matter how bad they are, if they're bad, I'm like,
He has
good.
presence. Lawrence
He has
Fishburne
presence.
has presence. Like when he speaks, you listen. You feel like,
Yeah.
especially when he's chewing someone out, you feel like he's chewing you out.
Oh my God.
You're sitting there like, I'm sorry, boss. I won't do
sorry.
it again. I'm sorry.
Why do they gotta sound like a slave?
What? What?
You know what you said.
What?
Related for no reason.
Jeez,
I'm
Louise.
sorry, there, boss. I'm sorry,
Well,
there, boss. That's what you said. That's what you
Can't
said.
somebody just say, I'm sorry, boss? Good grief.
Not how
man.
you
And
said
on
it.
that
How you
note,
said You sounded like slave, bro. Like, that's what you sounded like.
oh man, that's why this podcast can never be family friendly. We almost had a full episode with no incident. But
Did you hear how many bits of motherfuckers in the beginning of this whole conversation?
I mean, that part is kind of edible. Edible? What the fuck?
Edible.
What's on your mind?
Editable.
Editable.
What's on your mind?
See, this is what happens. This is what happens. But
What's on your
guys,
mind?
we are gonna
happens
get
when we all
out
take
of
edible.
here before Burn takes us down another dark.
Rabbit hole.
Yeah,
You knew it was going to
happen.
happen.
I knew this was going to wind up being a mega episode, and that's totally fine because this thing could literally, like every comic book universe, could branch off into different branches of conversation as it did in this episode. So we are going to wrap it up right here before it does that any further. But I hope all of you guys enjoyed this episode. If you want to hang out with us at any time, you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/project with a K, Itachi. Also, you can hit me up on Twitter at Itachi2661 if you want to continue this conversation. Also, make sure you follow us on Facebook at Gamma Games and hit up our official Twitter at the GZ Chop Shop. Gentlemen, do you have any parting words before we bid these wonderful listeners adieu?
You sure you want my
Say
party
something,
words?
but I don't know.
No,
now.
except for Burn. Everyone but Burn.
Oh, okay.
Everybody, let's just have a glass of whiskey together. How about that? I'm all for it.
There you
Don't
go.
do cocaine,
I want-
kids. Don't do cocaine. It's important. People out here doing cocaine.
All right, kids, you listening to this? Remember, drinking and driving is okay, just as long as you don't hurt anybody.
Oh, don't do that.
And on that note, love all of you. Please stay safe out there. Disregard that advice. And we will catch all of you wonderful people on the next episode. Later, everybody.